Hi there, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make your self-tape from something like this to this. Self-tape is an essential part of the audition process. If you want to get more chances to audition, you have to be good at self-taping. So when you finally get a chance to self-tape, you don't waste your time on technical stuff, you just focus on your acting skills. In this video, I will go over the most important parts of the self-tape: lighting, background, camera, and sound. Let's get started. Lighting is super important for self-tapes, not just so we can see you, but because it really makes a difference in how good you look and how well your performance comes across. There are two of the most essential lights that you should consider for the self-tape. The key light is the main source of light. It shapes the volume of your face. And the fill light, which is fills and shadows that created by the key light. Let's dive deep into it. Make sure to set your key light at the right angle. Although a softbox is a handy tool for diffusion, it's better to remove it at first to check out the shadow on your face. You can start by figuring out where to put your key light horizontally. This will help you better understand how different angles affect the overall look and feel of your setup. If you are making a self-tape, do not position your light to the left. It's not ideal since it has some drawbacks. Firstly, it doesn't show the natural asymmetrical nature of your face, which is important for actors. Secondly, the elevated angle of the light can produce micro shadows on your face that highlight minor skin flaws. Lastly, the left light position adds a dramatic effect that doesn't really go well with self-tapes, which should have a more neutral tone. So it's better to explore other lighting positions. When you put the light right behind the camera, it comes with both positives and negatives. The good thing is that it can help to hide imperfections by minimizing shadows on the face. But on the flip side, it can make your face to look flat and lose its depth. This position of the light is okay for a neutral look, but if you want to achieve a more balanced and dimensional look, a 45-degree angle is often better. When you position the key light at a 45-degree angle, it makes your face look more 3D, creating a sense of volume. This happens because the light shines on both sides of your face, creating shadows that make your features stand out. That's why this position is the best one. Now we just need to figure out how high or low we should place the light. Using a lower lighting angle, like the ones you see in horror movies, creates dramatic and intense shadows.
Hello, Vicky. Isn't that what your friends call you? Vicky?
It really highlights your eyes, but that's not the best option for the self-tape. There you want to keep it real, so it's better to stick with more balanced and neutral lighting. Let's check another angle. The up light position is highly effective because it can highlight your cheekbones and slim your face, which is especially appealing for females. It's all about getting this small triangle on your cheek, but be careful not to put the key light too high up. If you do, it'll throw shadows over your eyes, and that's not what we want since the eyes are super important for showing your feelings and personality in your self-tape. This lighting technique is called Rembrandt lighting, which is named after the famous Dutch painter known for his amazing use of light and shadow. This trick is a go-to for both movies and photography because of its ability to create depth and dimension of the face while maintaining a flattering look. Now let's add a softbox to make the light all nice and smooth. So as you can see, adding a softbox can really improve your lighting because it spreads the light out so it's not all harsh and direct, giving everything a softer look. When you choose a softbox, think about the shape, because it affects the little light reflections in your eyes. Round softboxes are usually better because they can give you this natural looking sparkles in your eyes, unlike the square ones. Bigger soft boxes, like around 35 inches or so, are great for softer the light, especially when they're up close. So yeah, a big round soft box is the way to go for that soft, flattering light and nice eye sparkles. Now let's talk about fill light. When you're filming a self-tape, it's helpful to use the second source of light, which is called fill light. It helps you to soften the deep shadows created by the key light on one side of your face. It's all about keeping the balance between two light sources, which is called the lighting contrast ratio. Basically, you don't want the shadowy part of your face to be super dark compared to the bright side. A good rule of thumb is to have the shadow part of your face just a tad darker, like 1.5 to 2 times tops. This keeps your face looking full and make it suitable for self-tapes. When it comes to fill light, it's better to use a soft and gentle illumination. If you have the second light with a soft box, that would be awesome. But if you don't, you can try bouncing light of a bright surface. This method helps to soften the light and fill in any shadows. I usually just use a white wall to get that effect, but honestly, any bright surface would do the trick. Even a black or gray surface can work, but you'll need a way brighter light. But it's okay, the fill light doesn't have to be as intense as the key light. Please avoid using colorful surfaces for the fill light reflection because it will make the shadow on your face look like that color. For example, if you bounce light off a red wall, you might get the red shadow on your face. Another type of light that sometimes actors use for self-tapes is the backlight. The backlight is the light that you put behind your back. When you use a backlight, you gotta think about a few things. Because it's coming from behind, it might be at a sharp angle to the camera, and it can get super bright and draw attention away from your eyes. And you know, your eyes are key in showing how you feel and make a connection in your performance. But a little bit of backlight can actually do wonders in the right situation. It can help you pop from the background, especially if you've got darker skin or your outfit blends into the background. It sort of outlines you, making sure you don't just blend into everything else. For my self-tapes and YouTube videos, I use Aperture M200X as my key light and GVM RGB LED soft light kit for the fill light. No matter what your budget is, please make sure you have a soft box to soften the light. But watch out for super cheap lights. They might give you a blue or green tint that doesn't look good on camera. I'll drop down below all the links in this video so you can check them out. I prefer not to use the ring light for self-tapes, especially if you place it directly behind the camera, because it creates these circular reflections in your eyes, which can be very distracting, unnatural, and unsuitable for self-tapes. I have reflection of this ring light even on my teeth, which is crazy. However, if you like me and already have a ring light, you can still use it as a fill light by turning it around and bouncing light off a white wall. Now moving on to another important part of the self-tape, which is background. The best rule here is to keep it as simple and boring as possible, so nothing distracts the casting director from your face. Neutral colors like gray, blue, or black will do the trick. If you don't have any other options, don't worry, you can just use a plain white wall. Just make sure to light yourself in a way that turns the wall more of a gray shade, so you really stand out against it. Your background should be smooth and free of any textures, patterns, or wrinkles that might grab attention. It's also a good idea to position yourself a couple of feet away from the background so you don't end up with shadows that might show up in the self-tape. If your space allows, placing the background further away from you might be an option. You could also consider adding a backlight to it, which I mentioned earlier. In many cases, the light coming from the key light and the fill light will do the trick to light up the background well enough. I personally don't use a backlight at all when I'm filming my self-tapes. I just don't think I need it. I have one reversible pop-up backdrop that can switch between blue and gray. I've been using it for about 4 years now and I've had no issues with it. It's foldable and wrinkle-free. I recently got myself a black backdrop. I like how it looks on camera. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is do not wear the black clothes. It's also foldable. And you don't need to get another tripod because it's already in there, it's just on the other side. It's a little bit wider than the previous one. You can do the full body slate here, which is great. Now let's tackle another key piece of the puzzle, the audio for the self-tape. Let's face it, sound can make or break your audition. When it comes to sorting out the audio for the self-tape, you've got three main options. I'll go over each of them so you can choose the one that works best for you. If you want to record good quality audio, don't use your own camera's built-in mic. It's not that great for the clear audio, it's on camera and it's too far away from you, so it ends up picking up more of the ambient noise, like you hear me now, and not enough of your actual voice. And even if you are using expensive camera, it's still not gonna solve the problem. So that's why it's better to get yourself a separate mic. A lavalier mic can give you a great sound quality, as it's close to your mouth, picking up your voice very clearly. The only thing that it shows up in the frame, and my lavalier mic has a wire, so I'm a little bit limited in my movements. That's why I'm no longer use it for my self-tapes. But if you consider to get it in the future, I would go for a wireless option. A shotgun mic is an ideal choice for a few reasons. First, you can position it close to your mouth to capture clear audio while keeping it out of the camera's frame. Additionally, a shotgun mic features a directional recording pattern that reduces the noise from the sides and back. While it doesn't completely eliminate all ambient noise, it does significantly improve the sound quality, making it one of the best options available right now. Recording audio with a sound recorder is a great way to get a high quality sound because you can control the sound a lot more than when using a lavalier or shotgun mic. However, if you use the recorder, you need to sync the audio with video after, which can be a bit of a hassle. You need to clap at the start of every take to give yourself a reference point for syncing, or use a software that does it for you. Even though the sound quality is better with the recorder, syncing can take a lot of extra time, especially if you're doing lots of self-tapes and need to be efficient. When I'm making my self-tapes, I record audio straight into the camera using a shotgun mic. But it's important to watch sound levels because if you are shouting or speaking loudly, the audio could get distorted or clipped. To avoid this issue, I use a shotgun with an automatic level function that adjusts it. Make sure the shotgun mic is pointed directly to you from the edge of the frame. Try to record your self-tape in a quiet place. You can also improve the sound quality by using a noise reduction plugins. They are pretty much in every editing software these days, and you can make a big difference with just a click. Now let's talk about camera settings. It can be time-consuming to talk about every single details when it comes to the camera. That's why I'm gonna focus only on the key aspects of it. I like this picture because it shows how important every camera setting is. I rely on autofocus for my self-tapes because sometimes I make slight movements in the frame. Autofocus helps to keep my face and eyes in focus. However, the sudden or quick movements may cause the camera to lose focus. If your camera allows it, adjust the focus speed to a medium setting to make it more accurate. If you stay still for a bit, the focus will automatically adjust itself. I usually set the camera settings in manual mode since I expect the lighting to stay the same throughout the self-tape. The only thing that might affect the camera's exposure is how close I am to it, which might block some light. If that happens, automatic settings can be really annoying, as they tend to overcompensate and cause changes in brightness. That's why I avoid using automatic settings and stick to manual ones. Okay, moving on to another key aspect of the camera, which is aperture. Aperture is a setting on your camera that controls how much light goes through your lens when you take a picture or video. When filming myself, I usually go for 2.8 or 4 aperture setting. It gives me a good balance between depth of field and brightness. If I go too wide with my aperture settings like 1.4 or 1.8, light, it might focus only on my nose or eyes, making the focus unstable and unreliable, especially when the autofocus is on. On the other hand, if I go too narrow with aperture settings like 5.6 or higher, it can capture a very sharp and detailed image of the background. Additionally, with the amount of light that I have, such aperture settings might not be enough to make up for the lack of light. To achieve a natural motion blur in your video, it's best to set your camera's shutter speed at about twice the frame rate. For example, if you're shooting at 24 or 25 frames per second, it's recommended to use a shutter speed of 150. Or if your frame rate is 30 frames per second, you should aim for a shutter speed of 160. This will allow your videos to have a smooth, natural motion blur that looks pleasing to the eye. I usually use ISO 800 for my self-tapes. It's kinda a middle ground for most modern cameras. It gives you enough light without making your footage grainy. So we've got aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. They all play a part in how bright your video turns out. But here's the thing, I don't tweak shutter speed or aperture just for brightness, because they impact a bunch of other stuff in the video too. So if my overall video is too dark, I will try to turn up the brightness of my key or fill lights, or increase ISO. However, high ISO often results in an increased amount of noise. To achieve a natural skin tone, I always set my color temperature to around 5200 kelvins, which is known as daylight balanced. I make sure that this setting is consistent across all my lights and my camera. If the color temperature don't match on your lights and on your camera, like I have right now, I have 3200 kelvins on my lights and 5200 kelvins on my camera. You can see that I'm getting this orange hue on my skin. Now I've changed everything to 3200 kelvins, and I see that I started to get some pinkish hue, which doesn't work for me. That's why I prefer to maintain consistency at 5200 kelvins to achieve a natural look. Now let's talk about camera lenses. The 50mm and 85mm camera lenses provide the most accurate representation of facial proportions, making them ideal for self-tapes. If you need a medium shot for your self-tape like I'm filming right now, you can use a 35mm lens. It still keeps a good facial proportions and you can show a little bit more of your body. As I am now creating videos for YouTube, I'm using Sony FX3 camera along with Sennheiser MKH416 microphone for better audio quality. This video is not sponsored. I'll put all the links down below so you can check them out. Most of my self-tapes have been filmed on Sony ZV-E10 camera. It's compact and user-friendly with on-camera Rode shotgun microphone. I also want to share my experience with Ulanzi Gear Tree. I was trying to speed up my self-tape process and it felt like a good idea at first to get this set up. I've been using it for about 2 years and it works pretty well because you have everything in one place. Your camera, light, microphone, your laptop stand for your reader, everything is ready to go. But honestly, if you have limited space or move around a lot, this might not be the best option. It takes up a lot of space and sometimes you don't even use it to its fullest. Also, whenever I need to tweak my lights, it slows the whole process down. And it feels too heavy for me to handle it alone. I'm starting to think that keeping everything separate is the best option. It just gives you more flexibility in the long run. So it's up to you to decide if it works for you or not. Yes, it's fast, but it has a couple of drawbacks that you need to keep in mind if you're going to put your money into it. If you have only a phone for your self-tape, don't worry. You can still get a decent quality footage using a natural light from the window. The window kind of acts like a huge softbox, especially when it's cloudy. Depending on where your window is, you have two options: side lighting or front lighting. If you put your phone right in front of the window, I have a huge window in front of me. So see, even if you have some limitations, these both setups will do the job. When setting up your self-tape, there are two important words you need to keep in mind: natural and neutral. These two words will guide your decision making in lighting, background, and wardrobe choices. The goal is to keep everything real and free from any distractions, putting the spotlight on your acting. Finally, try to practice the entire process, from setup to acting. The more you practice, the better and faster you will be at self-taping, the more time you can save for preparation and acting. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this long video. Please subscribe and hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.